sympathize. Although
I don't know.
I've always thought this entire clapback Chiron thing going on in primetime is deeply silly.
It's
For example,
embarrassing.
because when we do our Chirons, we just want it straight so that somebody who's watching it on their phone or their TV can just look up and have a very content knowledge of like, okay, that's what the segment
what's going on.
is about.
By the way, guys, in case you don't know, the Chiron is just like the banner you put on that says whatever you're talking. That's a Chiron.
There you go. Thank
there
you,
it
control
is.
room. That's
Tucker
our Chiron.
declares war
Tucker
on Fox
declares war.
News.
Yeah, there's no editorial judgment in this. We're just like, Tucker is going. Okay, but we are being descriptive in our editorial judgment. We're not saying like Tucker declares war on Fox News falsely. That's something that CNN used to do during the Trump era. They would live fact check him in the Chiron, or fact check, fake fact checks in the Chiron. And then secondarily, though, there was a Chiron that appeared on the Fox News program while President Biden was speaking, while President Trump was also speaking after his indictment, in which they called Biden a, quote, wannabe dictator. That Fox News producer who made that Chiron was later fired from Fox News after they had to issue an apology. And it turns out he actually used to work for the Tucker Carlson show. Tucker, of course, coming to the defense of his former staff and also viewing it as a contrast in a way to show that Fox News has gone woke and is no longer can be trusted. Here's what he had to say.
Beneath those videos at the bottom of the screen, Fox's banner read this way, quote, wannabe dictator speaks at the White House after having his political rival arrested. Those words were up for less than 30 seconds, but the effect was immediate. Inside Fox, the women who run the network panicked. First, they scolded the producer who put the banner on the screen. Less than 24 hours after that, he resigned. He'd been at Fox for more than a decade. He was considered one of the most capable people in the building. He offered to stay for the customary 2 weeks, but Fox told him to clear out his desk and leave immediately. Then the company issued a public apology for the 27-second-long wannabe dictator line. Quote, the Chiron was taken down immediately, Fox's PR department said, and then added ominously it was, quote, addressed. That was all true, but it was not enough to save Fox News from the ensuing scandal.
So why does that matter? Because it shows you that Tucker obviously still very upset at Fox for firing him, using his position, especially whenever they are issuing cease and desist letters and there's an ongoing legal war as to whether he's literally allowed to do that show at all. But the reason why it's important, I think, is it shows a growing alliance of the online right, Tucker Carlson, and also Trump against the preeminent conservative program that's out there right now. Let's put this up there, because Trump also joining the fray, going ahead and saying, joining actually Fox News, joining Tucker Carlson in going after Fox News as disgraceful, says that Tucker Carlson is right, and twisting the knife after MSNBC actually beat Fox News. He, quote, called himself the king and demanded they bring back Trump allies and MAGA. So the reason why, again, is that he says, it happened as I predicted. The golden goose that has been so beautiful is being slaughtered by fools. MAGA has left Fox for more promising prairies. Don't ask me why that one is in quotes. Long live the king. The only solution for Fox is to bring back Trump allies, and MAGA backing no personality. Ron DeSanctimonious has been a disaster. Also, do not broadcast negative ads against Republicans and conservative candidates by perverts, misfits like the failing Lincoln Project. Roger Ailes never allowed that. Man, the character limit really was a blessing for Trump. These long tweets and also long
it's a blessing
truths.
for everybody.
It really, it requires a live editing and an economy of words, which I find very important. But I think that the main point remains that Fox News is increasingly losing its cachet amongst hardcore GOP primary voters who have access online down to the Tucker Carlson show, also to Trump on Truth Social. I'm not saying that this is going to be some great revolution, but it has brought down Fox so they are no longer the kings of cable, of which they were claimed the mantle for decades of our politics, Krystal.
I mean, the irony, I don't know that it's an irony, but the truth is Trump is right.
Yeah, he is right.
Trump is the most singular force in American politics. I think that's terrible. I think it's bad for the country. I think it's bad for politics. I think it makes it so our politics end up being about nothing and about, it's just like existential, lesser two evils. There's no policy. No one feels the need to run on anything affirmative. I think that sucks, but I think it's also reality. And you see it with CNN. When they tried to pull back from, what they had cultivated over years of this resistance-focused, very Trump-focused audience, when they tried to counter-program that, it's been a disaster for them. And so the one channel that has stayed in the like all Trump all the time lane is MSNBC, and they have been benefiting from it. Put this up on the screen. After years-long ratings dominance, MSNBC turned in a few performances that were actually higher than Fox News. This is nearly unheard of. Nielsen data regarding the week ending this past Sunday showed that Fox's primetime 8 to 11 p.m. viewership averaged about 1.504. And the average viewership for the more left-leaning MSNBC over that same primetime hours was 1.520, so narrowly beating out the conservative network. But that's a huge deal. Fox normally dwarfs MSNBC. It's not even close. But guess what? Guess why MSNBC is doing so well? It's all got indicted, and they went all in. And, you know, CNN has sort of like broken the trust with their liberal faithful, and so they migrated over to MSNBC and know they're going to get the like Trump-centric coverage that they want and desire and have been trained to expect. And so, you know, MSNBC ends up on top because over at Fox, I mean, listen, Fox is still very conservative. They're still in certain ways very pro-Trump, but there was an overt attempt to make a break and push Ron DeSantis, and that, you know, and then all the text messages that came out during the Dominion lawsuit about the way they really felt about Trump and what was going on behind the scenes, the way they were manipulating their viewers. And then you've got competitors now in Newsmax and One America and also in online independent creators so people have choices as well. I think it sucks, but in terms of a cable news audience, if you're just looking at ratings, there's simply no doubt that all Trump all the time, either pro or against, is the way to go.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's very funny.
It's sad.
It also shows you that, you know, Fox, the biggest reason why I think that they made a big mistake is they were trying to do what they had the ability to do in 2008 today. So
Yes.
for people who don't know, back in 2008, Fox and Roger Ailes specifically said, we have one mission. We're going to take down President Obama, and we are going to guide the movement against Obama and elect the next Republican president. What they did is they effectively created the Tea Party by featuring their guests on all of the time and giving them a central platform to be the organizing face and force of the actual GOP. They also did that in 2004 for George W. Bush, and then famously beat the war drum in Iraq. That time where they effectively had a monopoly on conservative messaging, it's just over.
Yeah.
And I see signs of it everywhere. I see Republican politicians going on the Tim Pool show. I see them going on the War Room podcast with Steve Bannon. Matt Gaetz, sure, he goes on Fox News, but he goes on a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah.
And watching that happen really in real time has been fascinating because they don't need Fox in the same way. And then when Fox could not really stand to lose some of its people or did not have the monopoly, it also went in for Ron DeSantis, who just simply is not the same force as Donald Trump and doesn't have that level of support. So they tried to act as if they were still kingmakers. For those who watched Succession, there was a scene where they're like, let's go pick the next president. And I just remember thinking, like, this is such an outdated model of how it works. Like, cable presidents, Rupert Murdoch and them, they don't pick the president anymore, and they haven't in a long time. So they're still just not waking up to reality. Maybe they're just so old that they literally have forgotten.
Certainly on the Republican side. Unfortunately, I think on the Democratic side, there still is just a lot of trust
You
for
might be
like
right.
cable news
That's
and
true.
mainstream press and whatever. I mean, we're talking about a multi-decade-long project to divorce the conservative base from mainstream networks. And so for Fox, that makes you vulnerable to when the new upstarts come along, you being painted as the mainstream dinosaur that your base already has a lot of skepticism and antipathy towards. So yeah, it creates a real vulnerability for them. Now, what they argue publicly, I think sometimes, and definitely privately, is basically our viewership is really old and they don't even know how to find these other platforms. And so they're stuck with us. Like, that may have some truth to it, but you really want to bet on that? The bottom line is their monopoly on the conservative base and on conservative viewership is over. It's a new era. It's a new ecosystem. Are they still a force? No doubt about it. Do politicians still want to go on there and make their case? No doubt about it. Do they still have personalities that, you know, garner views and have trust and all of that good stuff? Yes, absolutely. But, you know, just like these other cable news giants, they're suffering from the same sort of managed decline and end of an era where they are just not going to be as dominant a force as they used to be in terms of American politics. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's very well said, Krystal.
Hey, guys.